Hello, everyone. Hola, mundo. Welcome, world, and welcome to Voces Poderosas 2024. I'm Jackie Bouvier, shining the light on our nation's most powerful voices of influence. I feel honored to say the least. So happy that I've created such a movement, but interviewing the best Latinos and this country, that's just inspiring, empowering, and so great to me. Voces Poderosas, for those of you that do not know, is a transformative shortcast that features trailblazers, spearheads, catalysts, and pioneers. These professionals have insightful wisdom that will inform and empower and help catapult you as a professional to the next height or the next level of success, of empowerment in your life. And today, I'm excited because I want to introduce to you my dear friend, Neli Vazquez Rowland, who is a builder of social, RE, economic, sustainable ecosystems, RE developer, independent board member, a serial entrepreneur, 60 times awardee, author, philanthropist, and she's a 13-time Chicago Marathon finisher. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for coming on Voces Poderosas Shortcast. I'm pleased to tell the world that you're on here. I'm pleased to introduce you, Nelly. And please, please, please welcome, welcome, welcome.
Jackie, thank you so much for having me here today. And I am just so excited to know that you are giving a voice to so many amazing women and men from the Latino community that are out there just crushing it, finding and really carving out new paths that hopefully will make it easier for the next generation to walk through and make new paths, for the next generation that follows them. So hopefully, our little nugget, our little contribution of what we've done and continue to do, we'll have that in mind with every step we take. And
Thank
with that, what do you want me to say today, Jackie? I'm all yours.
Well, we want to learn about you. We want to know your story, Nelly. We want to know your why. What inspired you? Tell us that story that is so deep in your root and self of who you are and why you became who you are.
Mm, that's a wonderful question because, each and every one of us, as we're starting out in life, in our careers, you can make plans, right? But life has a way of like throwing a curve, and then you have to figure out how to pivot, how to embrace that, whether it's good or bad, and what it means. And so many times when we're going through situations that we consider something that maybe it's taken us off the path that we had in mind, may actually be an opportunity to look at, a new door that's opening, one that you never even knew about, and are discovering and are welcoming, into your life in a way that is going to allow you to use that experience to maybe help the next guy. So just to give you a little bit of an example of how I was able to really look at those experiences and incorporate them and use them to give me the fuel, because whenever you're taking on big challenges, you really have to have, a belief system, that with, everything you have, you've got to use to fight because it's important to you, because maybe you've been through it and you know something that someone else doesn't, right? So let me start out with telling your audience here in terms of, where I've spent my last 28 years, or 30 years actually this year. And that is, I started an organization in Chicago that was committed to helping address and solve the root causes of homelessness. Little did I know that in the 1980s, when I was going through college, that I met a guy who was kind of cute, by the way, that had a little problem that many people have, but most people from the community don't even know about in terms of services that exist. And that is, he had a drinking problem and a drug problem. And he's pretty open about it. Otherwise I wouldn't share that with anyone, but he's pretty open about it because he does use this, as something that he shares to help people. And we incorporate it into our lives to help people. And he went through treatment while we were in college, and he invited me to be a part of that journey. And it opened my eyes, Jackie, to the fact that this whole world exists of people that are suffering from these underlying issues that oftentimes, without the right kind of help and the right kind of support system, leads people to the criminal justice system, or worst case, death, right? And I can't tell you at that time when I was going through that experience with him, how many people I thought about that could have used some kind of help like this. How many people that I grew up with in an at-risk community that ended up with those alternatives, going to prison or ending up, worst case dead because they didn't get the help, and how families suffered as a result. So fast forward, grateful that doors opened up for me that normally don't open up for people like me. I'm a Latina, right? So, and a woman. To be invited and welcomed and hired to work in the world of finance was unheard of at the time. And I wasn't expected to succeed. And to be honest with you, I really wasn't comfortable because I was kind of a fish out of water. I didn't know a lot of people that had invested in the markets and had a lot of money to invest. That's not the networks I grew up with. Even though that was the network my peers that were working with me had, I hadn't. So I resorted to what was called back in the day the yellow pages to find customers. So thank God, we were able to find a niche for ourselves, and were considered very successful in the field, and was in the field for 13 years. When after, again, thinking about that experience, my husband, and how lucky we were that life, had been good to us, God had been good to us, and we had, gifts today that we even wanted to be generous and help others, that it took us on a path of really trying to find a way that we can open doors and help the next guy that maybe wasn't as lucky as he was. And with that, we started with the idea of buying real estate, gutting it, renovating it, furnishing it, and giving people a place to come to. This was back in the 90s, Jackie, when nobody was even thinking about this. And the more we did, the more we met people that had, through no fault of their own, many of them, believe it or not, we identified became addicted to drugs and became homeless because of painkillers. Nobody was paying attention to that at the time, but we knew firsthand that that was the root cause for so many people. So we started getting them into a system that identified the root cause, got them into treatment. We realized that no matter how successful they were in terms of getting their life back on track, they still had barriers to employment. They had barriers to housing. So they say necessity is the mother of invention, right? So we started businesses. We started investing in more housing. And now that I look back 30 years later since we started, I had no idea that we would end up helping over 140,000 people. The vast majority of them today are living the American dream. In fact, we actually published a book called Healing that, it is a wonderful illustration of stories told in the voice of the people that went through our program. It's an anthology in their own words that talk about the struggle, talk about decades of being in crisis and living on the streets, in and out of prison and addicted, and how today they're living the American dream. We've got 3 or 4 entrepreneurs in the book. I mean, it's a beautiful story of families reunited. And, so for me, that was my purpose at the end of the day in life, and meeting people that needed help, didn't get the help, didn't forget about them, working with someone side by side that was getting help, witnessing how that help literally transformed their lives, and then thinking about how can we scale it once we were in a position to do it. And that really, for me, knowing that lives were on the line, despite all the challenges, the lack of funding, those, sleepless nights in terms of how we're going to make payroll, how we're going to pay the bills, but we couldn't stop. And I did eventually end up leaving my career to do this full time. So hopefully that explains to you, how someone, just with an idea, took on a major challenge that nobody was thinking about and actually came up with a solution. Thankfully, our mission and our vision attracted like-minded people, and the people came into our lives that became a part of this. And my fingerprints and the fingerprints of everybody that was a part of it, I believe own this, in terms of having contributed to the lives of people that maybe some will never even meet.
Wow. Talk about highlighting a Latina during Hispanic Heritage Month. That's amazing. You are a pioneer. You are definitely the definition of why I'm doing what I'm doing with Voces Poderosas, to highlight amazing human beings like yourself, Nelly. That story is so heartwarming. I just can't explain how much that does to my heart. But most importantly, the big opportunity, but the blessing that you've been to so many people, and you just took it upon yourself to make it your purpose, part of your calling, if you will. And so I think that is wonderful. Thank you for sharing that story. In the last few minutes, I'd like to see if you can tell me what advice from this experience that you've had in your why, in your story, what advice would you give the younger generation?
Wow. I mean, to be honest with you, you know, if I had known the challenges that I would face when I started out doing this, I probably would have just written a check to somebody and said, you go for it, you know. But again, when you do take on a challenge of starting a business, make sure that it is something that you wholeheartedly believe in, and that nothing will shake you from staying on track. Because I believe that if God put something in your heart, in your mind, to do something to make this a better world, to help someone, then you've got to follow through. And because for me, you say what a blessing I was for people. I truly see it the other way around. I'm like, they were a blessing to me. And let me just say it here first, Jackie. You're the first to know. Just to give you an idea, today I got a text from a former person in our program who is to me, so many stay in touch with me, right? And are for me an inspiration with how they've taken their lives from nowhere to somewhere, high and great. And they don't forget where they came from, and I just got an email today, and I'll send this to you, from a former resident who nominated me for an award. And because of them, I am getting a Presidential Lifetime Achievement Award by this administration. That's going to be an event happening here in Chicago in October. I'm still getting the details on it, but I just basically responded with, like, I am speechless. Like,
Oh
ah,
my gosh,
you know,
congratulations,
thank
Nelly.
you. I am
Oh my gosh, I'm
completely
so honored.
speechless that, when, I wasn't even, obviously, it wasn't on my radar at all that somebody was thinking about me this way, that somebody actually out there was, just like you calling me to do this interview. And this former resident or person of incredible success today happens to be a military veteran. She knows what it is
Oh,
to fight for a cause, that would think of me in this way, is to me a blessing that I never saw coming. So
wow.
that's for me, never did doing what I did for the accolades, because there were no accolades.
Mm.
I mean, it was a stigmatized issue back when we started. It wasn't something that it was even any funding for. So we had to just believe so much in what we were doing that nothing can shake us and nothing can stop us. And for me, to be honest with you, Jackie, do you know my moral compass was really my children?
Wow.
Why was I doing this? Why was I going out there? Because I believe that I wanted my children to grow up in a place that, aligned with our values. And that is not just giving someone a fish, but teaching them how to fish, right? And someday that they would see mom and dad as role models, as not just giving lip service to the idea of helping make this a better world, but showing them what it actually looks like. And the other blessing is today, my kids are living that,
Wow.
and my son, is now the proud president of a company that is committed to building, acquiring, and managing properties that always set aside apartments for affordable housing, so that we
Oh,
continue to create more capacity and more apartments for people that otherwise might not qualify for an apartment, in a place that gives them dignity and safety and pride. So his company's name is KMA, and the website is KMA Property Management. I serve as an advisor and as an
wow.
investor. So again, my children following that path and continuing to think about housing, being important. No one in America should be unhoused. And while I'm, still involved, from an investor perspective, he's really taken it to the next level. I mean, both my sons are.
I just want to say, Nelly, that I feel honored to have you on Voces Poderosas. Truly, I cannot congratulate you enough. You deserve that and so much more. There, humans like you are the ones that make a difference in our country. You leave a legacy, a fingerprint, and history for us to follow. And I mean this from the bottom of my heart. Cannot be more honored that I can call you amiga and that I can see what you are doing and done and what you are about to do because there's so much more for you to do, Nelly. You are inspirational and I truly am inspired by you. Congratulations. And I loved having you on Voces Poderosas. And truly, I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you, Jackie. And to me, you are a sister, right? Or I could say proud aunt. I'm a proud aunt of you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you again for having me. And I'm so excited to meet the people that you have following you here, and hopefully we'll stay in touch.
Thank you. Thank you for being on Voces Poderosas.
Bye bye.
Blessings.